Hello, this is the Voyager1 here. I want to thank you very much for clicking on the video. I want to bring up an interesting thought. If I were to co-write and then produce a horror film or a horror short, what can you, the audience, expect? I think it's a very good idea and very good basis to start off with. I want to make sure that I get my rules out of the way, my expectations out of the way. I chose horror specifically, mainly because it's easy, it's cheaper, but mainly because I think it's in kind of like a strange place. So I'm coming at this not just to create, but to solve a problem that I see with modern day horror, right? So, modern day horror. What are some issues that I see with it? Well, firstly, I see that I think it leans too much into possession or related, and it leans too much into kind of like this political angle in which certain people with certain ideologies absolutely take over it, and you can just say that they hijack the whole thing, literally hijack the whole thing, right? So, that's my sort of thinking and criticism of the genre itself. These sorts of things are worse with other genres, but when it comes to horror, because it's cheap and easy to do, it's usually the first, right? So I don't watch horror movies just to be lectured about political viewpoints. I don't watch horror just because it's cheap or something of the sort. I want to watch it with the expectation of these are characters and they're going to experience something that is exclusive to the genre, right? Everything else can be action, everything else can be thriller of sorts or fantasy. You can have that nonsense over there. Horror specifically is supposed to be solitary, self-contained in a sense. How do I know this? Because I've watched horror movies of the past. Even though I'm kind of like a 90s, late 90s kid. I was born in 1998, and I've seen so many horror movies. Some of them specifically is my favorite is the Silent Hill 2006 movie. I know it's an adaptation, it's an okay adaptation, but I enjoyed it because, and the games too, but I enjoy those because they have a specific philosophy that is crime and punishment, right? Certain Hollywood productions nowadays, they completely dismiss that. They do away with these sorts of things, and they just lean into the political angle, which I think is okay. I think is nonsense, and it's ridiculous that they're doing that, right? So, if I were to do it, if I were to, let's say, provide a solution to these things and provide you entertainment, proper entertainment, how would it look? I'm not going to tell you about like plot specifics because that'll be giving away certain things. However, I'm going to explain to you how would I treat my characters, how would the story look, how would the narrative interweave with what I'm trying to say, and whatnot. So, here it goes. How I would treat my horror characters, my main horror leads. Well, I would treat them as if they were smart, well put together, basic expectations of a clever person, but they're being tossed into an unknown situation, right? Which is where the horror aspect comes in. I would not have any tropes or any disrespectful or derogatory or discriminate types of viewpoints with these characters. They will be cunning, they will be smart, some of them will be detectives, in fact. And I have no problem with having cops and policemen, policewomen, or shield maiden, or anyone, literally anyone, as like a focal point for my film. But here's the thing, I would treat them as if they're the most flawed people and I would take the plot and I would punish those flaws and make a very interesting type of argument, is saying that we all should be reflective on our decisions in our lives. Whether it's the smallest decision, but you didn't know that small decision actually impacted that other person negatively, that turned them down to a path, right? These are called themes and morals, right? One thing I want you to take away from my short films, and I'm saying this right off the bat so that there's no surprise, is morals, right? We live in a day and age in which they just want to do away with that. Replace everything with politics. I don't think that should be the case. What I think is we should have characters who inspire people watching them to be as smart or as clever or as brilliant as these characters. And their flaws would be their attitudes, their behavioral tendencies, and then as well as how they solve crimes, and they may be favorable of certain people, they may not be favorable, and I want to literally put that on display, right? I'm not afraid of, and I'm moving to the next point after this, but I'm not afraid of literally stopping the entire movie just to showcase morals. I would literally do that, right? And I think that solves the problem. Number one is the moral rot of Hollywood, in a sense. So I'm gonna do that with my characters. I'm gonna showcase them being brilliant, smart, clever, but then punish their flaws, and then they overcome them, in a sense. Because evil can be conquered. I want to get to my other point, in which of setting, locations. We've seen so many horror movies that are coming on. Some of them do take full advantage of the locations that they're shot in. Some of them don't, and they just stick to a green screen and don't think about it. And let these VFX artists and CGI artists to do all the hard thinking for them. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. And in fact, if I was a billionaire, I would buy up all of these CGI houses and say, you don't have to be tortured anymore. I'm going to give you projects on top of projects on top of projects that will continue on for like 6 years. And you'll be too busy to work with Hollywood. You'll be too busy to work with or deal with the abuse of Hollywood. You don't have to be unionized because I'll take so good care of you. I would do that. I promise you. But in any case, I would like it if we were set in a location, right? And if the budget allows, then that entire location, dependent on the main character's point of view and her or him physical state, that it would deteriorate or change over time, right? So let's say I have a 3-hour or 2-hour horror movie. That's a long movie. That's a long time to sit at the theaters. Wouldn't it be better to have things change over time, maybe slowly or drastically, as the plot moves forward, and you don't have to torture yourself staring at a 3-hour movie that has the same color pilot, has the same looking characters, they're not injured or harmed in any kind of way. That would be boring, wouldn't it? That would be very, very boring. So if the budget allows for it, I would change that up drastically. Now we're talking about horror, in which I can make really, really horrific landscapes and biomes and diverse things happening on screen and whatnot, and the characters have to deal with that quickly. And again, I don't want Hour 1 to look like Hour 2 indistinguishably. So you can expect that with my films, with my movies. One final thing that I do want to come across, I spoke about morals, I talked about themes, but one thing I want to bring up is the religious aspect. I think that horror movies are especially guilty in playing the one side in which you have a clear victim. Actually, you just watched the trailer. You have a clear villain and a clear hero. These guys are the good guys. These guys are the bad guys, and it's clearly pushing an agenda. But nobody wants to say anything. Nobody wants to get up in arms. I was watching the backrooms and in theaters, and before the movie actually played, there was this neon movie publisher that came out with a trailer for this movie. I think it's called Leviticus, right? And this is when it's like, guys, come on. Even if you don't like Christianity, you sure love to villainize it. In a sense of you can't control yourselves when you villainize us. I'm saying us because I'm a Christian myself. So you just give me more ammo to shoot yourself in the foot, because it's so easy for me to solve this. It's so easy for me to deal with this and say, we're not doing that. We're not attacking religions in general. We're not attacking people, groups of people. Like I said earlier, we're not discriminating or anything of the sort. This whole movie, I think it's called Leviticus. I'm calling you out. I'm calling you out. This whole movie is essentially about a couple who goes against their religious leaders, and then I don't know what, like horror nonsense ensues because it's a horror movie, and you want to bash religion. They cannot help themselves in this situation. They really can't. So it's like you're asking for love, but you're villainizing me. How am I supposed to take away from it? Right? You give what you get. Hello? But anyway, I just wanted to say about that. Sorry about the rant, the tangent, but these things sort of do get underneath my skin once you've been silent on them for the longest. And I have been silent on them for the longest. I've been very, very, very patient. But it's running out. And I can solve this quite simply by just saying, look, I'm not in this business to discriminate anyone at all, whether I agree with it or not. This is a matter of fixing issues within Hollywood, showcasing people. You do not have to suck up to Hollywood, and you can just come up with us. And yes, I do have these rules. I do have these expectations of behavior on and off set. However, that's to protect you. That's to protect you from yourself, you know? Because we have too many examples of people going off on tangents politically, not being able to control themselves. And what do? What do? They attack and they belittle, and this is not the space for that. Horror is meant to provide life lessons, maybe harsh life lessons, because a horrific situation, these characters need to get out of it, and they have to learn these life lessons that nobody's going to tell them. Nobody has the guts to teach them. So that's what I'm going to use the horror genre as for that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'm working on the audio with the mic here. It might be peaking, it might not be. I just got this mic. This has nothing to do with anything. I just got this mic a couple months ago, and it is working out for me. I do like the wireless input between here and there. However, it is very easy to peak. So you might be able to tell I've been trying to speak enthusiastically and I guess use my hands more gesturally, but to get the video engaging. However, like the audio, I'm working on it. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. See you guys later.